Alright guys, today I got a new build for you, calling it Bottled Lightning, because with this build, you're going to be casting your super very often, and you're going to feel like the incarnate of lightning itself. So, this is obviously before Arc 3.0 has come out, which, now that I have come up with this build, I can't wait to see how it's going to get even better in the future. But for now, it's pretty simple. Just doing bottom tree with landfall, and then we're going to be taking advantage of Rising Storm. So your melee is going to be recharging your super, grenade, and melee energy. But the only downfall is it's not that powerful of a melee. So we're mainly using it just to get our grenade and a little bit of super energy out of it. Electrostatic Surge, your rift lasts longer, it charges faster, and you run faster when allies are near, which is cool. Not that necessary. The faster charge rate for it is kind of nice, but that's about it. And your Arc Soul, you know, your little Arc buddy always got your back. As far as your grenade, you can definitely use any of them, but I think Storm Grenade is just the strongest. You're more likely to guarantee at least one kill, so that I will show the mods in a second. It'll be a lot easier to trigger them with. Your Rift can be whichever you want. I just prefer Healing Rift personally, and Jump, of course, can be whatever you want as well. So, starting off with the mods we've got, going on your helmet, you're going to need a solar affinity so that you can run bountiful wells. Elemental well mods that cause you to spawn elemental wells can now stack, spawning additional wells for each additional copy of the mod you have. Harmonic Siphon and Ashes to Assets. Now, you could run double Ashes to Assets, but I like the orbs for a couple of mods that we have on our boots that I will show in just a second. And I don't feel like double Ashes to Assets is really needed because this build is already so potent at getting you your super. Going on to your gauntlets, you're going to run a Stasis Elemental Affinity with Elemental Time Dilation. Elemental Well mods that grant you time-limited benefits can now stack, increasing the duration of the effect for each mod you have equipped. Piercing Bowstring is just if you are running into barrier champions. Otherwise, you could run like Fastball or some other mod, doesn't really matter. But I know most of these, most people that watch build videos are probably going to be running into champions. So having that barrier destroyer is just really helpful. Grenade Kickstart. You're going to want to run Grenade Kickstart because this build is essentially centered around using your grenade to get your super very easily. And that just helps give you a good little chunk of grenade energy right off the bat. On your chest piece, this is where we're going to be running Elemental Ordnance Part 1. So we're going to be running a total of 2 Elemental Ordnance mods so that whenever we kill one person with a grenade, we're going to get 3 Elemental Wells. You're going to be running Concussive Dampener and Thermoshock Plating just for that extra resistance, really nice. But for this, you obviously can see, you doesn't matter what elemental affinity you have, you can run whatever you want. Oh, also, forgot to mention, obviously, the exotic for this build is Storm Dancer's Brace, because that way, whenever we defeat more targets, your damage is going to be ramped up, making your super even more powerful. And then also, as you defeat more enemies, whenever your super is over, you're going to be refunded typically about 50% of your super because it's just a really potent super and it's really easy to get those kills. On your boots, you're going to be running a solar elemental affinity so that you can take advantage of innervation and recuperation. This is why I was saying run Harmonic Siphon, just so that you can pick up a couple of Orbs of Power if you need that extra boost to get to your next grenade cooldown. And then you're going to be running Font of Wisdom. This is why I wanted to run an Elemental Well build, because that way I can disregard my intellect on my stat totals and just focus primarily on resilience, recovery, and discipline, because Font of Wisdom will just max out your intellect so you don't have to worry about it. And then on your bond, you're going to run a solar elemental affinity for that dual bomber. It's just such a powerful thing to have. And since you're going to be having high recovery and the little nodes that you have for bottom tree Stormcaller, you're going to be getting your rift really easily, and your rift is just going to be feeding into your grenades so that you can keep using elemental ordnance, so that you're getting your elemental wells that give you grenade energy back, and also spawn those wells for Font of Wisdom, maxing out your intellect, getting your super back even faster. And again, you're going to be running Ashes to Assets, so you keep throwing out those grenades, you're just getting more and more super energy. It's awesome. And here is part 2 of the Elemental Ordnance, so you're going to be running 2, of course, so that you get a total of 3 Elemental Wells for every grenade kill that you get. Now, as far as your stats, like I said earlier, primarily you want high discipline, but then after that I would spec into recovery, and then after that resilience. Your intellect doesn't matter, as I said, because of Font of Wisdom. Your melee, again, it's not a very strong melee, so you're likely not going to kill anyone with it, so I would not recommend using Melee Wellmaker for this build, which is why I went with double Elemental Ordnance, and your melee does not have to be that high of a stat. So your primary weapon you're going to be using is going to be Trinity Ghoul, because this is an arc-based build. You're almost always going to have that Lightning Rod perk, so that you can just chain damage and get Harmonic Siphon really easily to proc. And then your heavy hitter for when you have the big enemy that you need to chunk damage on, I recommend running a Hothead with Vorpal, and even better if you can end up like me and have a Hothead Adept with Vorpal and Adept Big Ones. It chunks bosses. It's so nice. And then in the first slot, I like to run something with Demolitionist, just so that in the off chance that you're caught without a grenade, just get a couple kills with it and you'll be right back to having a grenade charge. Another alternative, if you want, though, is, of course, Adrenaline Junkie, because you're going to be taking out so many people with grenades, you're almost always going to have that 5 stacks for that extra damage boost. So, moving on to my Destiny real quick, right before I show you a quick little gameplay segment. I went with the Insight Victahood. I don't know if that's right or not, but with the Black Armory Sauto Tribe shader, I just felt like it blended better with the other shader that I have on the rest of the stuff. So then you got Street Scholar gloves, the Induction Ceremony. I like how it looks so much better than the base for this exotic. The base of this exotic looks ugly to me. And then I have no ornament on the boot because it's just the legacy from the, I believe, Deepstone Crypt. That's what it's from. And then for the bond, I have the Phenotype Plasticity bond. I just felt like it looked very electric, Tesla coily, and fit the vibe for this build. Alright, so just a quick presentation. You're just going to throw out your grenade. Easy kill. There's your 3. Gonna max out your intellect right there. And then you just go ahead and cast your super. Of course, I already had mine since I was having to show off all the mods and everything. But go ahead and take everybody out. These are really weak enemies, so it's kind of going to be a little over showcased. But there you go, you already have half your super back when your super's ended. Throw out that grenade, get Ashes to Assets going, pick up those elemental wells to max out your intellect, and Your melee, of course, recharges your super and grenade, and you've already got it back. And look at that, I just cast my super, and I've almost got it again. And of course, Font of Wisdom's still going, so I have that max intellect for faster recharge. And you get your super back real quick and real easy. So that has been my Bottled Lightning Stormcaller build for Warlock. Thanks for watching. I will catch you in the next one.